Do you want to have the perfect start possible in Monster Hunter Wilds? You are in the right place. As a first generation hunter and after playing Wilds for 70 hours, I will be giving my 34 tips that I wish I had known sooner before I started. Even if you already started your playthrough or you are a seasoned Monster Hunter fan, there is something to learn here. Monster Hunter Wilds is a huge game and there are a lot of complicated things to learn, so these tips will save you a lot of time and help you avoid the common traps and mistakes in the game. The Suikoden series absolutely shaped my childhood gaming experience. I spent countless hours recruiting all 108 stars of destiny or your party members in this game. This game ignited my love for JRPGs with its intriguing storylines and addictive combat. Now it's your turn to experience this masterpiece in an HD remaster. In Suikoden I, you will lead a liberation army against a once renowned hero turned tyrant. Suikoden II puts you amid a devastating war between the Highland Kingdom and the city-states of Joustan. This legendary series returns with incredible upgrades like crisp HD backgrounds, enhanced animations, and immersive sound effects that bring this fantasy world to life. Konami nailed it by adding features I wish I had back in the day, like an autosave feature, battle fast forward, and a conversation log. This remaster is a no-brainer for both newcomers and JRPG veterans. Available now on all major platforms, grab your copy using my link in the description to support the channel. Thanks to Konami for sponsoring this video. Starting with general tips first, and tip number 1 is focusing on the main story. Completing the main story quest in the early game to unlock more features and locations. This will let you farm different kinds of materials and give you a lot of options in terms of gear crafting as you progress. If you want to save a lot of time, I suggest not staying too long in low rank, and all of the quests that the main story offers falls under this category. The main story only lasts around 15 hours or so for you to access high rank and ultimately start the Monster Hunter experience. Clearing the main story is the best thing to do. During this phase, I suggest learning the basics and passing on any excessive grinding. Learning the game progression cycle is one of the best tips for newcomers. It goes something like this, and I prepared a simple presentation for you. As you progress in the story, a set of monsters will be available to you. Fighting these monsters will let you craft new gear or even improve your existing ones. You will be doing more story content and then new monsters will be introduced. As you defeat these new monsters, you can craft more powerful weapons and armor. This is the core gameplay cycle of Monster Hunter. Tip number 3 is don't get overly stressed about your equipment during low rank. Low rank or the main story is more than a tutorial phase or learning ground for you to have a footing, and the challenges in this phase are just right and can mostly be cleared with little preparations. There are a lot of new players who overly stayed in the low rank and did not know that they would be replacing their gear anyway when they reach the high rank. Just craft the new armor sets when you can, but don't feel like you need to craft everything you unlock, especially since the game will pour down a lot of low rank gear as soon as you progress in the game. My rule of thumb is to only craft gear that is 2 or 3 times better than your current equipment, or you can just focus on getting more defense when clearing the main story. But when it comes to weapons, it is advisable to have multiple weapons with different elements to help you exploit elemental weaknesses. There are a lot of options to consider, but I will be giving my top early weapons and armor recommendations that you need to craft later on. Tip number 4 is picking your main weapon class and sticking to it and getting good with it. There are 14 weapon types in the game and each of these weapons offers deep mechanics and unique playstyles. So focusing on a single weapon during the main storyline helps you to be a better hunter by a lot. Don't get me wrong, if you enjoy switching and jumping into different weapons, please do so, but for the majority of you who have limited time, take the time to examine each of the weapon types in the game and pick your main and move on. If you are playing different weapons, the more weapons that you will be upgrading in low rank, so you will spend more time in here. But again, if you enjoy this, please go on and have fun to the fullest. Low rank is out of the way, high rank progression is a totally different beast. You will be fighting the same monsters, but they are much stronger and reward you with higher grade materials. New monsters will be available as well, and this is where the traditional Monster Hunter gameplay starts. This usually happens after the 15-hour mark that I mentioned, after the in-game credits started to roll in. This is when you should focus on gear optimization. Take the time to read each new weapon and new armor skill to understand how they affect your builds and playstyles. This is the time to take things slow and upgrade your existing gear from low rank, especially weapons, as each of them will be on the next level in terms of raw stats. Tip number 6 is learning how high rank progression works because this confuses a lot of players when they reach this phase. After you clear the main story, high rank will commence and the game will give you a confusing objective that says increase your hunter rank. It basically tells you that for you to advance on the post-game story, you need to increase your hunter rank. So more related post-game story related content and unlocking new monsters is directly tied on your current hunter rank. You will be spamming a lot of optional quests anyway if you are hunting for specific materials for your gear, so your hunter rank will increase naturally. Every time you reach a specific hunter rank, the game will give you the key quests. I don't know about you, but man, the inventory system can be confusing at first. But what you must keep in mind is that your item box is different from your item pouch, and there is also the secret pouch. Item box is your overall chest for everything, and you can find it in your campsites, while your item pouch is your personal inventory, which is limited. Filled materials go here first, so make sure to transfer your item to your item box. Then secret pouch is a totally different thing. When Alma tells you that the guild sent you supplies during combat, she is referring to your secret pouch. Open it and you will be getting more supplies for your hunt. I cannot stress how this confused me and my friend a lot when determining where the guild supplies were being sent. Tip number 8 is to gather materials when you can while hunting. This habit will save you a lot of time in the long run. I'm not saying gathering every single resources in the entire field, but when chasing a specific large monsters requires a lot of running around, and during this time, picking up materials along the way will stockpile resources that you will need at late game and accumulates over time and saves you time in the process. Cooked meals can provide a lot of helpful buffs such as additional HP and stats. There are many temporary buffs that can make a huge difference in combat, so don't skip this pre-hunt ritual. Like for example, eating cooked meat alone will provide you additional attack. Meal effects are temporary and usually last around 30 to 50 minutes, and while you are in the field, pressing the L1 button will let you monitor the remaining meal buffs duration. So don't go out there with an empty stomach. The weapon crafting system can be confusing, especially when it comes to new players. There will be times when specific weapons will have the lock status even if you have all of the materials to craft that weapon. To craft certain lock weapons, you must follow the weapon tree where previous weapons need to be crafted first before you can access the more powerful ones down the line. Like for example, I want to craft my Dosha Great Cleaver 1, but it's locked and I have all the necessary materials. I can only craft this weapon by crafting its previous version, the Dosha Fate Cleaver 1. And as you can see, the Dosha Great Cleaver is now unlocked and ready for crafting. Just follow the broken lines to avoid further confusion. Tip number 11 is don't skip side quests. As cliche as it may sound, side quests in this game are actually important, especially quests that unlocks material retrievals, a feature that provides materials passively over time. This is pretty useful as it serves as an auto farm of certain materials like honey, which is an important component when crafting mega potions. I will be making a separate guide on how to unlock this feature, but basically you won't miss it if you are doing all of the available quests when progressing in the main story. You can identify a side quest when there's a golden marker above the NPC's head. Settings and loadout tips are the next important thing to know after the general tips. These settings and loadout tips sounds boring, but trust me, I wish I knew all of these sooner because it will save me a lot of headaches. Trust me, the sooner you adapt on all of these settings, the easier it gets. So changing all of the settings that I will be talking about in this section will save you a lot of time in the long run. Start by optimizing your radial menu and quick slots, and these are the priority. Using the default settings may cause you accidentally use of different items like the barbecue pit in the middle of battle, making you vulnerable to attacks. So to avoid this, remove all of your basic stuff from your quick slot menu first by pressing the X button when using a PlayStation controller and removing the basic stuff first like the binoculars, fishing net, barbecue pit, and more. I'm showing the bare minimum of what items you should always have on your quick slot, so feel free to pause the video as I go over them. Of course, you can add more items you prefer on top of these suggestions, but as much as possible, I am making it as clean and simple. So when in battle, I can quickly switch through them, hassle-free and lightning fast. By the way, you can manage your radial menu and item pouch in your camp. Next is optimizing your radial menu. Head to the Actions tab and you can see that the basic items that we remove from my quick slot are accessible here, like the SOS flare, fishing net, and more. Again, pause the video if you need to. On my ammo tab, here is where I keep my other pods like the Screamer pod, Luring pod, and Small Dung pod. Feel free to customize your communications tab according to your liking, but my essential items tab saves my small and large barrel bombs. This section contains auto crafting commands, and the absolutely needed ones are the Flash pod, Pitfall trap, Shock trap, and the Trank bomb. I will also explain later on the use of these commands, but for now, make sure that you follow them. Feel free to tweak all of my slot suggestions for the quick and radial slots as you progress. The map is an absolute annoying thing if not configured correctly. So to optimize it, make sure that the minimap rotations is set to fixed. Minimap angle is set to fixed angled, and the detailed map rotation is set to fixed as well. Following these settings will make your map interaction hassle and confusion free, and I wish I had known this sooner before I started the game. But what ticks me off is the Sacred moving its own even when not on auto. I would highly suggest that Sacred Auto Explore is set to off. Make sure that Call Sacred Controls on the radial menu is set to manual movement, and lastly, set Sacred Manual Controls to Type 2. Following these settings will give you much better control over your mount, hassle-free once again, so do this as soon as you can. Tip number 15 is setting the camera distance view to 10. This is completely subjective, but in my experience, setting the distance to 10 can give you a much better view of what's happening, especially when fighting large monsters that takes up most of the screen in combat. Auto crafting must be turned on, and it will save you a lot of time in the long run. In the healing support list, make sure to enable Potion, Mega Potion, Antidote, and Cool Drink. In the Trap and Offense tab, turn on Flash Pod, Dung Pods, Large Dung Pods, Net, Shock Trap, and Trunk Bomb. Of course, it is up to you if you want to enable other items, especially the ones you find yourself using frequently. If you are a light or heavy bowgun user, I highly suggest optimizing your auto crafting settings around ammo. Turning auto sheet off is completely subjective, but the reason you want to do this is to avoid accidentally sheeting your weapon during damage windows instead of maximizing those opportunities. The game will auto sheet your weapon if you sprint, so depending on your preference, you can leave auto sheet on or off. As a longsword user, I leave this on anyway since I am used to it. Your case can be different than mine when using other weapon types. Setting your target filter when you lock on enemies must be changed as well. Target filtering should be set to large monsters only to avoid targeting unnecessary enemies when multiple creatures are present on the field. If you are getting value out of this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Liking the video and engaging in the comments helps me a lot, and I appreciate your support. Also, get a free copy of Suikoden I&II HD Remaster by entering my giveaway. Simply like this video and comment what you enjoyed the most about Suikoden I&II when you first played it, and the winner will be randomly selected after 7 days. Moving on to my actual exploration tips, and you can actually save any monster that you encounter in the field for later fights. In Monster Hunter Wilds, monster spawn varies and there's an RNG involved in the process. Like for example, I encountered a tempered Lalabarina active in Scarlet Forest, but I can't hunt it as of the moment. You can create a quest for it and save it as an investigation quest for later use at any point in time. It will cost guild points, but it is totally worth it. Another example is I will save this tempered Rathalos quest later as well. Once I am free and I want to hunt my save investigations, talk to Alma and access the save investigations tab, and you can now engage with your saved monsters. Taking advantage of the map and fast travel list for quicker access will save you so much time when you need to move between areas quickly. I'm not referring to your base camp only, but when you are hunting monsters, you can directly fast travel to your pop-up camps to cut the travel time. If you make this a habit, you will be saving a lot of time, more than you can think of. Tip number 21 is paying attention to the map features when finding specific materials in the field. This can save you a lot of headaches and save you a lot of time. Access the map and filter to field materials to see a list of available resources in a certain area. If you find the material or gathering node that you are looking for, just hit auto on your sacred and it will bring you there in no time. But if you are looking for specific large monster drops or raw materials, you can access the monster field guide in your menu. Select the monster that you want, and for this example, let's say I'm looking for an Aqua Sax. Balahara drops this material and I knew it since the drop table says so. So take the time checking out the drop tables of the monsters that you hunted so far to determine where to get a specific material if you don't want to search online. Doubling your harvest gains is a pretty neat trick. It is possible by letting your palico farm a specific node first before you farm it yourself. This way, you will get an extra loot, and it piles up over time when you use this trick consistently. This is extremely useful when a specific gathering node can only be farmed once. When farming gathering nodes for raw materials, they normally refresh after 15 minutes, and you can see this by checking the actual gathering node on the map. But there's an actual trick of skipping a gathering node's cooldown by entering and leaving an optional quest. This trick will force these nodes to become available again, so farm to your heart's content. It is time for my tactical and useful combat tips, and the first one is of course taking advantage of the training dummy. Each specific weapon type in this game has reasonable depth, especially when a certain weapon has a counter mechanic. The dummy has an option to simulate an attack, and you can master the timing or master the exact mechanic of a counter in real time without the pressure of actual combat. Of course, nothing beats actual monster encounters since bosses in this game have their own set of attacks to master, but being able to practice your combos at peace and counters is a nice addition. Tip number 25 is prioritizing focus strikes, and they are an absolute must. They should be a priority when the monster you are fighting is suffering from open wounds, as they will deal damage and get you more raw materials from monsters. You can easily see if there's an open wound active for you to destroy with a focus strike if a wound is of course visible or when a certain monster's body parts are glowing in red. Focus strikes not only deal a huge amount of damage, but oftentimes they supercharge a weapon's special gauge, so you can dish out weapon special moves faster. Another trick is you can interrupt a monster with a focus strike during their special attacks even without open wounds inflicted on them by carefully checking for any glowing parts when they are performing special moves. Secret is not only a great companion in exploration but also in combat as well. It is not only a quick transport option, but when you need to heal safely, ride your Secret and use your potions, compared to when you are using it on foot. You can even sharpen your weapon when riding your Secret, safely cruising you around from monster attacks, or even call for SOS while mounted. Doing these things on foot may leave you wide open compared to the moving Secret, which is usually safer. When you get knocked down as well, you can call your Secret right away to recover quickly from your sorry state. Maybe you are wondering what is the ultimate indicator of when a monster is ready to be captured. Let me tell you that a dying monster ready for capture will have a skull icon being shown in your minimap, so you will never have to second guess if you can capture a monster every time you want to, rather than relying on other visual or audio cues from your companions. Tip number 28 is mastering the auto grappling trick. Using the auto grappling trick can save you a lot of time by automatically getting the materials around you without the need for manual aim. You can do so by pressing the L2 button and tapping the up and down directional buttons. It will let you cycle through the available raw materials near you, and selecting and pressing circle will let you automatically get them. This is regardless of your camera orientation, so it is very useful when running in the landscape. This is a combat tip as well, since this is especially useful when fighting monsters near environmental debris that you can easily access instead of manually aiming. You can use your slinger while your weapon is unsheathed. This is incredibly useful when stunning targets with flash pods, so you can deal damage right away instead of manually sheathing or unsheathing your weapon before using your slinger. Do this trick by pressing L2 to aim your slinger and then pressing the L3 button. We've set the auto crafting commands on radial in this guide, and now it is time to take advantage of the auto crafting in combat. As long as you have the materials in your item pouch and have set auto crafting in your radial menu, you can craft on the fly. This is especially useful when you need multiple traps in the field or additional flash pods, which quickens your runs and your fellow hunters will thank you for it. Your Palico is more than an adorable companion, but he is going to be a great asset in combat. Palico equipment geared towards status ailments can help you quickly build up those effects. This depends on your builds of course, but something like paralysis gear on your Palico can help you ramp up those paralysis attacks quicker than normal. So make sure you don't sleep on the Trusty's Companion's gear, and he can help you save a lot of time. There are a lot of good early gear recommendations available for you at low rank, but for the sake of this guide, I will be suggesting a few so you will have an idea what to aim for. I will be making a separate guides for both low and high rank gear suggestions, so stay tuned for that. When playing at low rank, you will never go wrong by creating and upgrading the Ore weapon tree or the Hope weapon tree. Both weapon lines provide good raw attack stats, pretty useful for general use. I will only be suggesting a specific weapon line as this is a general guide for beginners. After progressing enough in the game, and once you fight Lalabarina for the first time, I suggest making its weapons quickly for the easy paralysis status that you can take advantage in early game. This weapon is fantastic not just in early game but also at end game or high rank. The Kumatri's weapon line is a good fire elemental weapon at low rank with good raw attack and fire elemental damage. There are a lot of monsters weak to fire as you progress, but its main advantage is you can literally craft it in your first hours after starting the game. When it comes to early armor suggestions during low rank phase, remember that I suggest not to craft every armor that you encounter, since you will be replacing them all anyway. But for general progression, you can't go wrong with the Balahara armor set for the evade extender skill it provides, so you can easily position yourself to continue your attacks. Very useful not just for dodging but increasing your damage window times. I remember just using the Balahara set in almost the entirety of the low rank period until I had access to my next suggestion. You will gain access to these armors at a later time, but you can go wrong with the Guardian Rathalos set and the Guardian Ebony set. Guardian Rathalos offers mainly weakness exploit skill, which strengthens damage and weapon affinity when hitting enemy points. Guardian Ebony provides the burst skill, which increases attack and elemental damage after hitting enemies consecutively. I have used this set a lot even when already at high rank, so I highly suggest checking this set out. Armor spears might seem limited at early game, but upgrading these mentioned sets is worth it. I suggest at least upgrading them with the most basic armor spears and you are good to go. Take advantage of charms. They can add more skills to your build or even enhance an already great skill from your armor. It's not just for combat, charms can give you gathering skills that can improve your quality of life when collecting resources in the field. Since Guardian Rathalos is one of the good low rank armor sets in the game, pair it with an Exploiter Charm 1 for an additional weakness exploit skill, while slotting in Blessing Charm 1 for possible reduced incoming damage, super helpful for beginners. Or equipping Geology and Botany Charm to improve your gathering node material gains overall. All of the things that we've talked about are just the tip of the iceberg, and there are so many advanced tips that I will be surely be covering in the future. But if you are on the fence and thinking of playing Monster Hunter Wilds, click on this video since it covers my completely unbiased review of this game, and I will catch you on the next one.